Your first time. That's what we're talking about today. Your first time. And we're not talking about sex. Well, we might bring it up a little bit. But what we're talking about today is your first time with all of those little things that happen when we're trying to lose weight. The first, I had to make a list because I wanted to make sure I didn't miss anything. So the first time you make a plan, how hard it feels. I was remembering the first few times I tried to make a plan. And now it's so easy. I already know what I like, all that things. But the first time, what happened was I apparently had all my brain spill out and I couldn't make a decision. I remember thinking, I don't know how to make a plan. I don't even know what I like. I don't know what I want to have. I don't know what will be available tomorrow, the plan I'm making for tomorrow. I don't know if my family's going to want to have it. I don't know. And I just kept saying, I don't know. I don't know. What if someone calls and all that stuff? That's normal. I don't know is my answer for saying I've got things to figure out. When I put my fork down the first time and left some of my food behind, I had all this drama in my head that first time. I remember thinking, what if that wasn't enough food? What if I really wanted more, or even thoughts about throwing food away? Like, what am I doing with all of this? Am I going to trash it and then ruin the world because I'm wasteful, or I'm not a good steward of my money because I'm wasteful with food? I remember people bringing in food for the break room, holiday seasons, or even my friends or my husband asking me, here, you want a bite of this? And remembering how hard it was that first time to say no, thank you. It felt like I just committed my name on the dotted line to forever, torturous behavior. I remember that. It was so hard to say no, thank you. In my head, I thought, oh my gosh, they're going to think something's wrong with me. Or in the beginning, I didn't tell my husband I was trying to lose weight. So maybe it was even a little bit of that. He's going to figure this out if I don't take that. Or a lot of it sometimes was I am missing out by saying no, thank you. And so I just remember all of how hard it was first times. My first time was always so hard. I had so many thoughts about it. Maybe I definitely even when I decided to stop staying up late, when I thought I'm not going to watch TV after a certain time so that I can get more sleep. And that's all the way up to now where my planning, my food planning, I planned for an entire week. When I couldn't even make a decision for the next day, now I plan for an entire week of food. It's just easier for me to already have the groceries in the house, already know. I mean, I can swap what food I'm going to have for what day, but to already have it here and to have it already pre-planned, I can make pivots and changes as I need to, but to already have that planned is so much easier. My sleeping, not only am I not staying up late, I have an alarm clock. This I think makes me sound old, but I'm going to choose to say that it makes me sound like I'm really taking my health seriously. I have an alarm clock all iPhones do this, so it's not like I have an alarm clock set, but I have my sleep downtime. So at 8:30, it starts to count down, and then usually I'm in bed by 9, and it alerts me at 9:30 if I'm not already in bed to go to sleep. And so I have an alarm to let me know that I'm supposed to start winding down. What that did for me was it let me say, am I going to finish this movie, or I'm not going to start another one after that alarm goes off? And it hit my phone in do not disturb. So I wasn't getting all those notifications that keep you engaged with your social apps. So that was something big deal. I remember that being such a big deal to just go to sleep a little bit earlier. I had such a fear of missing out. I remember thinking all the things. I'm going to just lay in bed and nothing's going to happen. I'm not going to sleep. I'm just going to be laying there. I remember thinking then I would go to the other end, right? It's not fair. I'm never going to be able to watch any shows again. There's just too many things. It's like you want to stomp your foot and say, adulting's hard. There's not enough fun time in it, right? I have learned to make plenty of time for sleep, plenty of time for planning, plenty of time for TV. What else did I put on here? oh, when I was learning my hunger, and I didn't quite have it dialed in. And I wasn't even sure I really believed that my body could tell me when I was hungry and when I'd had enough. And I remember that little bit of curiosity happening. Like, could I think when it happened, especially if I'd already overeaten? I'd already gone past what enough is. And if you're not sure of some of these things that I'm talking about, take the free quick start course that's on the website. And we talk extensively about all these simple, doable weight loss habits. We don't really have rules, but that's what we do. So you can find that there. But that first time of stopping, and I remember thinking, I am super afraid that it's not enough. I am thinking like, I'm going to be starving later. This is, again, it's not fair. I shouldn't have to stop. I should be able to have as much as I want. Well, I can, and then I'll never lose weight, and I can choose that too. But that's not what I wanted. I wanted to lose weight. I wanted to have a smaller body. And part of it was figuring out the overeating. And so that the first time was so hard to just stop and think, oh, what if this isn't right? It could be wrong. I might be hungry again, or it still might be not at enough. I still could have maybe overate. And so all that in our head, it starts to be like fear and uncertainty and just not even sure if it's worth doing. Those were the three things. My mentor said that people don't lose weight for three reasons: fear, uncertainty, and lack of purpose. And so I definitely understand fear because it comes up every single time for me. Uncertainty, because I go to the I don't know pit of despair. I don't know is all I can come up with. And so I crawl out of it with what do I know? It reminds me of when people have anxiety attacks and they're supposed to like look around the room, and I don't remember exactly how it goes, but like 4 things you smell and 5 things you see and 6 things you can hear. I don't remember how it goes, but that's what it reminds me of. Like when I'm in the pit of despair, of uncertainty, of the I don't know pit, what do I know? I know I'm sitting here in a room. I know that I want to do this. I know I don't know how to do that. I know that I could try that. And so I get out of it that way. So that uncertainty, that fear can leave us completely stuck. So I started this by saying it feels like I'm talking about sex, like your first time even with sex. It was full of anticipation, full of fear, and then full of excitement. And then you do it anyway. And then you realize there's such a good payoff, right? I guess depending on who your partner was. Weight loss, you start with that excitement and that anticipation that you're going to finally be able to have the size body you wanted. And then all the fear and uncertainty comes in. All of that, I'm not sure if this is going to be worth it. It's going to be so hard. I don't know if it's going to be worth it. When you start moving into that, you stop. So whatever it was with sex, it got you to move on forward. I guess you thought the payoff was going to be so amazing. It was worth all the fear, right? With weight loss, you have to get in that same mindset, that same thought pattern of that thinking of this is going to be so worth it. Like this discomfort of figuring it out. It's only going to be hard the first time. If you've heard me share my weight loss story, I was on a hiking trip with some girlfriends near the beginning of my weight loss journey, and they were all out hiking. I've said this story so many times, and for the entire hiking trip, this is the last time it's ever going to be that hard. That was me telling myself the first time is the hardest. I understand it, and it's also the last time it's ever going to be this hard. So telling myself both sides of that. I totally knew it was hard. I totally knew that I was super worried about it, couldn't figure this out in that moment. But in the moment, I knew this was the last time it was ever going to be this hard. As long as I didn't give up, this was the last time it was ever going to be this hard. That's what I want you to remember. So as you're doing those first times with weight loss, this is New Year's resolution time of the year. I understand everybody's getting all excited and anticipating this year being the best year ever. Just decide it's the best year ever, and know that the first time is the hardest. each time after that, you've already conquered the fear, and it's not as hard and it's not as scary, and you're able to do it a little easier each and every time. That's how habits are made. The first time is the hardest every single time. After that, you're like, well, I did it that time. Even if I did it terrible, at least I've done it one time. And then you do it again. If you had to give a presentation at school and you never, ever like prepped yourself, you never practiced what you were saying, it was going to be terrible and hard, probably, right? The first time. But if you practiced and you repeated it again and again, it gets smoother, it gets easier. You understand what went well and what didn't. That's exactly what all of these first times with weight loss are. So I wrote down this quote because I didn't want to mess it up. John Acuff is an author, and he's one of my favorites. He has a lot of self-help books and different things that I love. He has a quote, and I cannot remember if it came from a book or something I heard him say, but he says, fear is a feeling, afraid is a choice. And I'm sure you've probably heard me use this quote many times too. And I get kind of confused with his words sometimes about fear and afraid, because to me, in my head, sometimes they feel like the exact same thing. The point of what he's saying is fear is going to happen. We totally have fear as an emotion, something that happens in our body. We feel that in there. Afraid is when we decide to just stay stuck. We decide that it's too scary. We decide that we don't know enough, or that it's not going to be important enough, and we just don't do it. So the bigger it gets in your head, the scarier it gets, the more fear you feel. When you decide 100% scared, I have no idea if this is going to work. I have no idea if I even know how to do it, but I'm going to do it this time. That first time, you just make that decision. First time is going to be hard, and it will never be this hard again. If you know that, you're going to be willing to just throw yourself out there and look like a fool. Everyone has those friends, right? They're the first on the dance floor and they don't mind looking like a fool. And I can tell you they're not usually the best dancers. They're just the ones that are the most willing to give it a try. And as we keep getting out there, we look better, we do better, it gets easier. So with our weight loss habits, each time that you do this, it's going to get easier. It's going to be so simple. Those little first times, when you keep repeating them, those turn into habits. And habits are those things like you don't have to think about how you brush your teeth. You do not get worried about brushing your teeth. Did you know that when you were a child, you probably had a little bit of fear of brushing your teeth? You were afraid of that toothbrush in your mouth. You probably didn't like the toothpaste, and you thought it was going to choke you. You didn't like the whole thing. And then a couple times later, you're like, oh, I kind of like chewing on this thing, or I like the toothpaste, or I like doing it my big girl self, or whatever it was. That is such a routine. You probably are flipping through your phone, or you're listening to music, or you're picking out clothes, and you're not even paying attention to brushing your teeth anymore. That first time might have been scary when you were a kid, or pottying, right? Like going to the potty as a big girl. That was scary. Kids think they're going to fall in the toilet. It was scary. You're not even thinking about it now. Now that sometimes is the best part of your day, getting to relax when you get to, check out and go sit on the toilet to have a break before you have to come back to work. People hide in the bathrooms all the time. The first time is going to be the hardest. It will never be that hard again. Just be willing to put yourself out there and do it. Let me make sure that I had everything I wanted to say. Yeah, we got it, guys. Woo! So, Happy New Year to you. And just be willing. Put yourself out there. The first time is the only time it will be that hard. See you next week.